Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Ka-blam, Ka-blam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kelber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Sorry. I had the video on loop and I didn't mean to. Hello, everybody. Barry, I see you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silverline Silver Sunday on this Sunday, May the 12th. I'm your host, Adam Roland Man, and I am so jacked about our guest tonight. I've been asking this guy to show up and talk with us for about 3 years or so since we started streaming, and he's always got some excuse. And I can say this since he's not here and he can't interrupt me yet, right? But he's always got some excuse. I don't know. But he finally said yes, and I'm excited about it. Excited to ask him all kinds of questions about his career. You guys have heard me mention him a bunch of times. I'm already giving his introduction. I hadn't introduced you guys yet.
I see we don't matter anymore.
So I'll time out there and introduce with me tonight is Mr. Thomas Flormonti. He's only good at a very particular set of skills.
Very few things. But I want to say something really quick. I realize why we call this Silver Sunday, but I'm a little upset because I don't have any silver in my hair, but you guys do. So is that the reason why it's called Silver Sunday?
No, yes. It's not.
Yeah, because it's a show about a bunch of old folks.
Also, we're talking about investing in silver instead of gold. So that's
right.
Okay, never mind.
That's right. Also with us tonight is Mr. Mike W. Belcher, that man in the mask guy. Say hi, Mike.
Howdy, good.
And of course, Barry's former employer, Mr. Tom Mason.
Hi, everyone.
Real quick before we bring him on, how do I do this? Here we go. Remind everybody that we still have our campaign up here. We are 85% funded. We've got 852 towards our $1,000 goal. And I've got to show you really quick. I put this on the loop because it goes away so fast. This is what the foil looks like. This is my proof printed by Ka-blam, and it is gorgeous, y'all. You gotta go get you a copy of that. Limited to the number of backers that we have. So this is the only way that you can get this foil version of this cover.
And not going to print anymore.
Not going to print anymore. This cover, the regular art for this will be our retail version when we go to comic shops. But this is the only way you're going to be able to get the
shiny
metallic version.
Yeah. That's what the loot did. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to my introduction to Barry here. You guys have heard me talk about him a bunch on this show because I've known Barry longer than I've known almost anybody. Certainly, I've known Barry longer than anybody that in my circles that I talk to. You guys have heard me talk about back issues. Barry, I was into comics before I met Barry, but Barry is the one who actually introduced me to back issues. I had no idea what they were until I went over to his house one day after 7th grade, and he said, "Come on, we're going to go to the bookstore." And I followed him walking through alleys into this little strip mall, and then there was this little used bookstore, and they had about 6-ish long boxes of back issues, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" I think I spent all the cash I had at that time. So,
oh my gosh, what is this?
What is this? Yeah. So without further ado, welcome, Mr. Barry Gregory, everyone.
Hey.
Hello, Barry.
It's about time.
Yeah, that was a big build-up, and then they go to me, and it's
I thought it was Barry Windsor Smith, so I was really excited.
Tom. Barry Windsor Smith.
That's right, Smith. Sir, Lord Barry Windsor Smith.
That's right. How you doing, Barry?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Good
Can you hear me?
Barry.
Yes, sir. We can hear you just fine, sitting on your back porch there in sunny Florida.
Yes. I was all set up in my office. I was ready to go half an hour ago, and everybody who's been ignoring me the whole weekend suddenly decides they have to talk to me. So I moved from the office out here onto the porch.
Tell Jenny that I'm sorry that I didn't realize when I asked you that today was Mother's Day.
I didn't realize it when I accepted. So
yeah, well, so please offer my apologies to her because I didn't realize it. It didn't say Mother's Day on my calendar when I invited.
This sounds like a plot of a sitcom.
Well, this is actually Barry's gift to Jenny by not having to bug her for this hour.
That's right.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, Barry doesn't make very many internet appearances, so I'm very very happy, Barry, that you finally said yes after all of my times of asking you to come chat with us. So I got all kinds of questions. So these other guys are probably going to have to stop me.
Okay.
But the first question I'm going to ask you is, tell us about the first comic that you can remember reading, and that might be a different one from the first one that resonated with you. But so you can actually talk about both of them. What's the first one you remember reading, and what's the first one that made you go, "Man, this is cool"?
I remember reading comics because I had older cousins who collected them, or didn't collect them. They bought them and read them. But I don't remember any specific issues until, and this is the one that resonated with me. So Captain Marvel number 27, the Jim Starlin cover where Captain Lord Marvel's got his shirt ripped off and he's standing on top of the building, and Eros and Mentor are fighting down in the bottom, and I think there was may have been some scrolls on there. Blew my 7-year-old mind.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, because I remember, so you and I met in the 6th grade. And
yes.
Which is for those who are keeping score, that's a long time ago. You and I hit it off immediately because of comic books. And it didn't take us long, from what I recall, to realize that, hey, in your spare time at home, you were drawing comics on notebook paper far better than I was doing. But I was doing the same thing. I was drawing comic books.
I was tracing.
Well,
I never admitted to that, but I was tracing.
Really? I didn't
yeah,
realize
yeah.
that.
So you wanted to be Wally Wood.
Oh, Tom went there and I zipped my mouth. I'm like, I'm not going to go there. Tom went.
Hey, I was trying to make sure I was going to run through a couple of names and just make sure they were dead before I insulted them.
But when do you recall thinking this is really because I seem to remember when I met you, this was like me. This was something you wanted to do. When do you remember saying this is something I want to do?
Probably around that time, probably around the 6th grade because I didn't know any better then. I thought you could actually have a career making comics. I thought you could actually make money making comics. And so I aspired to do it before I knew any better.
I've told the story live. I still have a bunch of the things that Barry and I did. And 2 or 3 years ago, something like this, I was getting ready to do something with one of the characters. And I asked Barry, I said, hey, would you care if I showed some of this artwork for one of these things? He goes, not if you want to remain friends. So I never showed it, but I have it over here in a folder, nice and safe and sound. So I
appreciate that.
And we're still friends. So so yeah. So what do you recall? No, let's see. I got too many questions running through my head. Tell everybody about how did you get into the industry? How did you go from Captain Marvel 27 to can I mention the name of the of your team?
Sure.
From Captain Marvel 27 to doing the Death Patrol to doing professional comics.
Well, because when you're 9 years old, the Death Patrol sounds like the coolest possible thing you could be doing.
It still sounds like it.
It really does. Something that a lot of folks might not have caught from way back in the day. It's listed on every Silver Dollar is actually a character that Barry created. Yep.
Barry would argue that he created both of those characters on that cover, but that we can have that argument some other time.
Okay, I'm not aware of that. So yeah, that's a discussion.
Oh no, there's going to be a fight.
Oh no.
Also, Silver Dollar is another great character name too.
It really is. Yeah.
And it's and not to just jump in too much, but Silver Dollar sounds like a character from one of Mike's comics.
Probably good.
It could fit. I can see her fitting into your or that character as a female fitting into the Mask universe.
Right there. It's a good name.
Roland, go back to your thing now.
No, I was just
you're welcome to it, Mike.
And that every time I've asked Barry about it, that's pretty much what he said to me. Yeah, I've got no plans. Go right ahead. So what was your first? How did you get from Death Patrol into working comics professionally?
Well, Tom Mason was the first person to ever pay me actual money to write a comic book, and
there we go.
I think there were 2 short stories that I got paid for, and I don't know if the second one ever printed, but there was definitely the one, and I was in college when I submitted those, and honestly I don't remember much more than that. I remember there were those stories, and then Roland was looking for colorists when he was an editor at Malibu, and I lied to him and told him I could do that. I had that all figured out. I could do it, no problem. And I had no idea that this was back in the Pantone coding days. I thought I could just grab some markers and watercolor and paint the pages and I'd be good to go. I didn't know that I was going to have to
code them,
draw lines and Pantone codes, and I had to figure all that out and deliver that the book that he assigned me within a couple of days. So it was.
Did I send you the Jameson chart?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't recall if you sent it to somebody. Gave it to me. It may well have been you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then how did you know to send me
I
stuff?
think it may
How
have
did I
you
find
that sent it to me. And what's that?
How did you know to send me stuff, or how did I find you?
I think Roland gave me your address actually.
That's what I think. That's my memory of it too. I think Roland said I got a guy.
Yeah.
I think Roland said I got a guy about 4 or 5 different people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a handful. There was a couple of other writers as well. They're not on the show tonight, so we won't talk about them.
Yeah, to hell with them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I remember you colored an awful lot of books for me back with Protectors, and then on to the Ultraverse. You did a lot of those books.
Yeah.
And those were color guides that you were doing.
Yeah.
Do you still have any of those by any chance?
Oh yeah, I got a couple of big binders full of them.
You know,
it's because nobody knows what they are.
Yeah.
You know, and you try to explain to people what they are, and they still just look at you glassy-eyed. So
if Tommy hasn't told you, there's probably a group on Facebook that even if they don't know what they are, they might be interested in some of that stuff. They're just that wacky enough about Ultraverse.
Yes, they are.
That they could possibly be interested in some of that stuff, especially if they know this is the legit. These were the guides that were used to color the actual book.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point,
maybe so. I should check into that.
Yeah.
At that point, they're almost like art because they're the original coloring.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
You could put your kids. You could pay off your kids' college debt.
Or maybe a class or two.
That's right.
or maybe a book.
Or
maybe buy them lunch. Yeah.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Or just publish more comics.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, I got all kinds of questions. You might want to jump in and ask something?
My questions come later in the process.
Okay.
Because I have a Dropbox full of things that tickled me. So
well, okay, very cool. Because I have a whole bunch of Gallant comics here. For those of you who've been wondering what's Barry doing, yeah, he's making comics still. He's also got a novel out. We'll ask you about that. This is one of my favorites here. But he's got all kinds of stuff.
3 of them.
3 novels.
And I believe he also makes action figures.
Yes,
I do have an action figure. Yeah. 3 of them actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my questions. All involve that kind of stuff. So when we get to those parts of the show, I'm ready to jump in.
Well, after the Ultraverse Marvel coloring stuff, what led on to the Gallant stuff? Oh, we forgot about
Tell us about Hurricane LaRue.
You know, it's a terribly written book, but I still think its heart was in the right place.
Absolutely, I agree.
And I've kicked around the idea of trying to revive it and do another. And I was thinking even about putting that issue up at Indie Planet. And so I contacted Steve Scott, who did the artwork on this. First thing Steve Scott ever I was
going to say, this was his
ever
first
published.
Work, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's his very first work, and you'd never know it to look at it because it's pretty polished.
Yeah.
And so I ran it past him to see if it would be okay. And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead."
Same thing that you said. If you want to.
Yeah, he said, "Yeah, go ahead. Just don't use my art."
So, well, that's too bad. Because I still think it holds up today. I was flipping through it earlier today and looking through it. I'm like, you know what? This still holds up. I mean, clearly this is not Steve Scott's work today, but if you look back at this still holds up. I think
early 90s, I guess.
93, I think. Or was it 95?
Well, the date here says 95, so
that's what it was then. Yeah.
Yeah. So
29 years ago.
Woo. Yeah. And of course, this one's inscribed to me, which is makes this one for me highly valued. Okay, Tommy, I interrupted your question by holding that up.
No, I was good. So you did the coloring for the Ultraverse, and then you did some coloring for Marvel, right?
A couple of things, not a lot, but a couple of things, yeah.
So what was after that?
Well, I gotta tell the Marvel story first. I'm not gonna name the editor. I should, but I'm not going to. So after I did a few things I did a few Malibu Marvel Ultraverse things. After the Marvel buyout, but then I did an actual Marvel, not affiliated with the Ultraverse book. And I called the editor up afterwards, to see if he had any more work. And his honest to God answer to me was, no, and I wouldn't have hired you the first time if I hadn't been desperate.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So,
wow.
Well, so that my follow-up question that is,
I don't think he's in the industry anymore, by the way.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
What and did you get any other work at Marvel after that?
I didn't really even try after that. I'm like, okay, well, that door's closed.
Yeah.
And this was the mid '90s when nobody really understood computer coloring yet.
Yeah.
And so we were getting plenty of computer color work, and people were paying us way more than they should have because they didn't really understand what we were doing. So it wasn't like I felt, things are over because a Marvel editor was an asshole to me.
Yeah.
So
Vic Dew says, hey ho, Silverliners, what's up, Vic? Good to see you here. And talking about the editor here, he says that man can eat Vic. Now, Barry, you went north for a job. Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a couple of years after that. It was sometime in the late '90s. Things had really started to kind of dry up, and this was fairly early internet days, and so we still got most of our work from networking. From people friends that you made at cons and stuff, and whenever things were starting to slow down or you didn't have a lot of work on the calendar, you'd start calling your friends and saying, hey, do you know anybody that that needs anything? And they would say yay or nay, and then they would ask you, well, do you know anybody that could hire me? And that was how we were getting jobs. And there came a point around 96, 97 where I was spending more time on the phone calling people asking if they knew anybody than I was working. And it was around that time that I got an offer from a publisher to come work as an editor, and I turned them down at first because I didn't really want to work for them. But a few months later, I still didn't have any work, and I called them back up to see if they had hired anybody yet, and turned out they hadn't. And so I took the job. And I went up and worked there for almost 3 years.
Yeah. So what were some of the, how can I word this? What were some of the lessons you took away from being an I from going freelance, right, to being able to do your thing, to being an editor?
Here was the thing. I still think I was very good at that job. And I enjoyed doing that job, and I thought it was just my luck that I found something that I thought I was really good at, that I really enjoyed doing, and that I put in way too many hours a week doing because I enjoyed it and thought I was good at it, while I was working for somebody that I really, really didn't like. And so, after about
Mason says, "Have I got a story for you?"
So
I've said I'm sorry several times.
So I probably would have stayed there longer than I did, but it was about that time that I about 3 years in, there was a really ticky situation where an artist that I had paid a kill fee to because he turned in subpar work, and I tried to talk him into doing corrections and getting it up to snuff, and I thought it was good enough. Editorial of my editor in chief overruled me and said, it's still not good enough. Pay him a kill fee. So I paid the guy the kill fee, and then they ran the book anyway.
Oh no!
And when it came out, I was told that they changed their minds, and I thought they had actually paid the guy, and then it came out later that they hadn't. That the only payment he got was I think it was like a $50 or $100 kill fee for 8 or 12 pages, something like that. And so when I found that out, I turned in my resignation that day. So,
wow. Yeah. Now, will that artist talk to you today? No names, but will that artist talk to you today?
Yeah, actually, I like the guy a lot. I had a long talk with him, and I don't mean to imply that the work that he turned in was unpublishable.
Right.
It was subpar by his standards.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him that I thought it was going to hurt his career, to publish something like that he clearly rushed out and wasn't up to his own standards.
Yeah.
And he was as fed up with the publisher as probably more so than I was at that point. And this was the last book on his contract, and he just wanted to be done.
Yeah.
And so no, I have a lot of respect for the guy. He's one of the best guys I ever worked with. And
that's good.
And we still talk. We're still friendly. Actually, he did a cover for the book I've got on the Kickstarter right now.
Really?
And so yeah,
I've got that pulled up here. We'll go over that here in a minute. Well, that's good news. I know that Tom and I worked on a project. I'll say the project name, Tom. That might. I'm not going to say the artist name. We were doing an adaptation of Philip Wiley's Gladiator, and I had written the script for you, and the artist turned in work that was just like, what the heck is this? And it did not look like what that artist was normally capable of doing, and it was terrible. And unfortunately for me, is like that project never saw print. So it's just one of those frustrating things. I think for me, one of the things I learned as an editor was that a lot of people, and you hear this all over the internet, especially all of us being in independent comics now. A lot of us always hear, well, just, pay them money, just pay them more money, just pay them more money. One of the things that I learned as an editor is like more money does not mean that the freelancer will submit the work on time. That has nothing to do with it.
Or make it better.
Yeah.
Right. Or make it better. Yeah.
The most surprising thing for me when I became an editor, my first thought was, for a decade before that, I'd been more or less working as a freelance editor, putting teams together and, trying to publish books, trying to sell projects, that kind of stuff. And it was always a problem I had because people might want to do it, but they couldn't afford to do it.
Right.
Because they couldn't afford to take the time out to do it. So I thought, I'm an editor now. I've got a budget. I've got a checkbook.
Yeah.
It's all cookies and cream at this point. I've got this. And I was stunned to find that even when I had a budget and a checkbook, I still couldn't get people to turn in the work.
Yep.
So I have an anecdote, and I will try not to name any names because they'll get me in big trouble. But when we were putting together the Ultraverse, we knew one of the writers had issued a manifesto about everything that was wrong with comics. And it's like, these are the 5 things that publishers need to do to take care of their creators. And So Chris and Dave and I went through all the lists and go, well, we could do that. We could do that. We could do that. We could do all 5, and we get him to come aboard. And we thought if we address these 5 things that are his major problems with the comics, certainly he'll be able to do his best work on time and meet a deadline. It's like, no, that wasn't it at all. we solved every stated problem he claimed to have in interview after interview after interview. It had no effect on him.
Yeah, I think for me that was the biggest reality check for me. Is like, yeah, and you still here today. Well, why don't the artists do? Can't they meet deadlines? Well, just pay them more money. That's not the answer.
No, I think it's a very complicated issue, and money is great, and having a good contract is great, but those aren't really the stumbling blocks.
No, they're not.
So what came after that editor job?
Yeah, because it sounds like you resigned and you were in the middle of a place where you didn't, grow up. You were.
No, but we were about we were in Champaign, Illinois. We were a couple hours south of Chicago, and we loved it up there. It's still one of my favorite places I've ever lived. I hated the place I worked at, but I loved my job, and I loved the place that we were living. And so, we really wanted to stay. My wife had a good job at the university, but I couldn't find
kids,
it.
Right?
Huh?
Before kids.
I'm sorry?
This is
yeah. Yeah, this was about 5 years before we had kids. And she had a great job, but I couldn't find anything. And it was every job I went for, they would tell me, well, you're overqualified for this. And I'm like, well, okay, can I have it anyway? And so, ultimately that I had reserves were dwindling, and so that was about the time that Thomas contacted me and said, yeah, he wants to come down to Florida and work for Disney. And so that's how I ended up where I'm at now.
So Tommy's the one who got you down in Florida?
Yeah.
It's his fault, huh?
And he blames me for it every day. He went from a nice, beautiful place that had seasons to sweating for 10 months of that of the year. My fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So so you work for Disney for a couple years?
Yeah, 4 or 5. Yeah.
Now,
and then sorry?
I was going to say, what made you decide to, because you were still making comic books then, right? You were still working on comic books.
Not really. Once I wrapped up the editor gig, I really needed a palate cleanser. I needed some time off. And so I was doing a web comic. I started doing that, and this was, we were really early in the web comic game. We had a
that's Web 1.0.
Yeah, there was the publisher that I worked for had an anthology series that they did, and I had wanted to do a piece in the anthology series. I had this kind of a hard-boiled neo-noir, Sin City knockoff thing that I was doing, and I couldn't get it past my superiors there, and so when the job was done, I started doing it as a webcomic, and I did I don't know, maybe 100 and something episodes of it. And
what was it called?
It was called The Damnation Gambit. And I you might be able to find it on the Wayback Machine, but other than that, I don't know if there's. I did it all low res, so it's not printable, even if I wanted to.
Did you do it intentionally low res, or was it just you were just trying to get stuff done?
Yeah, because it never occurred to me that I would print it.
Yeah.
And so I just did it all low res, and computers weren't nearly as powerful back then as they are now, and it was easier to do it low res. And so I did it low res, and I enjoyed doing it. I got there was a website called The Thrilling Detective. They're still around. They gave it a really nice review.
Cool.
Warren Ellis gave it a really nice review on one of his blogs that he had back then.
Nice.
But after a while, I just kind of let it die. I had about 4 people reading it regularly, and so
the trials of independent creators, right?
Yeah, but it was a quality 4.
Yeah, Barry looks like he's frozen.
Yeah, you don't want terrible 8. You want quality 4.
That's right. Yeah. you want somebody who's going to read all of it. Yeah.
That's
right.
There
he's back now. He's blinking.
Right. Okay.
So Ka-blam comes around along about this time, right?
Yeah, it was late 2005. We started researching. We had the idea sometime in 2005. Started doing our research on it, trying to find out what it would take to do it, what kind of machines we would need, working out all the logistics, and I think we were pretty much ready to go by late 2005, but it was early 2006 before we actually had the website done and ready to go and started taking orders.
Yeah.
What was the first one to roll off?
No, our books, of course.
That's right.
I remember several really early books, but I couldn't tell you which one was the first. I don't recall.
So now I have a story that I tell everyone that the reason Ka-blam was started. But what was the reason that you and Tommy decided to start printing comics?
Yeah, there's a story that I always tell people that you and I, the reason why we started it.
There was another company back then, an early competitor of ours. Well, actually, they got there well before we did, maybe 2 or 3 years before we did. I knew the guy running it. I was really friendly with him. I know to this day he still thinks I stabbed him in the back, and that wasn't my intention at all. I remember I had dinner with him at a show a year or so before I started Ka-blam, and I remember telling him that his prices were too low. He needed to raise his prices, and I know he thinks that when I started up, that was a calculated ploy to get him to raise his prices so I could come in under that. And that wasn't what I was doing at all. Because I would have been content to keep using him if they hadn't really, not intentionally. I know he didn't do it on purpose, but they really screwed me over before a big convention. I had an order in.
We both had orders. Remember?
Yeah, we had orders in for a show. You got yours though, right? Didn't you, Thomas?
Yeah, that
yeah,
was
you got yours.
The bad part about the whole thing. Yeah,
and mine, the order had been in for almost 90 days.
Wow.
And I didn't get it in time for the show.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And that was the last.
And Barry's didn't. And it was a miserable show for both of us.
Mine and me and my wife both had books in the order.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the final straw. That was the okay. We've got to do this ourselves, or it's not gonna. If I'm gonna do comics, I've got to make my own. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, for those who may not know, Barry's mentioned his wife a couple times. His wife is Jenny Gregory, and she does she's done a lot of things, but probably around this time she was doing Dreamwalker, right?
She's been
she started doing Dreamwalker in 90. Started doing it in 93. She got there. She was doing
that long ago.
She got there ahead of me. Yeah. She did, I think, 16 or 17 issues. She self-published, I think, 5 of them. and then Caliber did 6 issues of it, and I think Avatar did 6.
Wow.
And then she when I quit my job, she still had like 2 years to go on her contract, and so she just waited out the contract and never really, it just killed the momentum on the series. And she never got back to it.
So you've been a writer, you've been an editor, you've been a colorist, and you work for Disney, which almost makes you half a lawyer. So how do you think that helped you become Ka-blam? How do those pieces fit?
Well, it gave me everybody here knows this, but a lot of people, I think, don't understand that when you're an editor for a small to mid-list publisher, you're not just the traffic cop that you are when you're the editor for a major publisher.
Right.
Your hands are in every pot. You're doing everything. So before we started Ka-blam, I had a pretty good grasp of the entire pre-press process. And Thomas had worked as a production manager at a newspaper, so he had a pretty good grasp of the technical aspects of printing. And so between the two of us, we were pretty confident that we could, that we could handle the starting up a digital printing operation. We were overconfident. We had to learn a lot on the job, but we had a grounding, at least, that benefited us a lot.
So is that how you sort of split it up? Tommy is the technical guy, and you're the other guy.
That was kind of how we started. Yeah.
So who's
he still handles most of the technical aspects. But we all kind of had to learn pre-press, and we all had to learn as much as we could about everything. Yeah.
So what's to me the hardest part when Roland and I were in big comics publishing, the hardest part was always, where are we going to get paper? And we had printers that would just call us up ahead of that, and we'd have printers that would say, in about 6 months, I'm not going to have any paper unless things change. And then we'd start to panic, because you think 6 months or 3 months or whatever is way far in the future, but in terms of paper needs, it's not. It's almost urgent at that point. So do you guys have difficulty landing paper?
When we first started, we were so overconfident and naive about how things work. We were actually going to Office Depot and buying paper off the shelves when we first started. And then at some point, I don't remember who it was, but somebody at some point is like, no, you guys need to be buying this wholesale. And so we set up we got set up with a local paper shop and started buying paper wholesale from them, and never really had a problem until the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And once the pandemic hit and every bit of pulp in the world was going towards making Amazon boxes, then we had real scrambles for paper. And there was one stretch we had where we were out of paper. We had no prospects. We couldn't find any. And I think we were literally a matter of a week or two away from having to turn off the presses because we just didn't have paper. And about that time, I got a Facebook message from a friend of mine who said, "Hey, look, I know this guy I've known for years. He's got a small shop, not nearly as big as you guys, but he's got a small printing shop, and he's decided to shut down, and he's got paper. You want to see if you can buy his?" And I'm like, wow. Yeah.
This sounds
so
like the
put me in touch with him. Yeah, and I called him up, and he was desperate to get rid of his paper. He couldn't sell the paper, and he offered me a crazy good deal on about a half a truckload of paper.
Yeah, he
and
couldn't keep his presses
and
going because of the toner and stuff.
he couldn't get parts. He couldn't get parts and toner, but he had paper, and so he offered me this crazy good price. It was such a good price that I didn't feel good about it, so I paid him more than that. It just was like, I won't feel good about myself if I know you're losing this much money, and I'm going to be making that at your expense. So I paid him above that, and he shipped the paper immediately, and we never slowed down. But it was a scramble every day. I was making calls. We were scouring the internet, trying to find paper for about 2 years there. And
there was a couple of times that we had.
I was driving
to people's houses that had paper. Remember, we'd pull up in their driveway.
Yeah.
They'd sell us a ream here and a ream there. That was insane.
You're like drug dealers on FBI.
Yeah, we would see people. We would see people that would have listings, at various sites. I've got a ream here. I don't want to ship it, but if you can pick it up, and we'd go pick it up. I would drive over to Clearwater and St. Petersburg, which hour and a half away, and pick up a couple of boxes here and there.
With masks over our face.
We went up to Jacksonville one day to get some paper.
I don't want to catch COVID, but get your
right.
And
Vic says, "I think I picked up a Dreamwalker.
Yeah,
it was
we.
Really cool."
Well, thank you. But yeah, we were. It was a constant scramble to get paper, and there's still, we were printing it before the pandemic. We were printing everything on this really nice glossy paper. Yeah. I had a good price on it. We actually started offering the glossy paper because we had I can't say exactly who because I've still got an NDA, even though I bet there's nobody there that remembers I have an NDA.
No.
Yeah.
With a major publisher who's not Marvel, who seemed kind of interested in buying us at one point, and they wanted us to prove that we could print on glossy paper, and so we printed a couple of issues of a very popular superhero who's not Superman.
Got little horns on his head.
And sent that to them, and in order to can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And so I remember I was in a conference call with a bunch of VPs there, and they were going over the books that we had sent them, and one of them actually said, "Are we concerned about offering a product to our customers that is superior to what we're offering the comic shops?" I'm like, that was the nicest way you could have possibly told me you don't want to do business with me. And
you're too pretty. I can't possibly go out with you. You're too pretty.
It was right about that time that they had the massive layoffs.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody that I knew and had been talking to were laid off, and that was pretty much the end of it.
Yeah.
But that was how we found the glossy paper, and so we
he's a little robotic-y there. While he's struggling to connect there, Agent Cub says, "Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, Agent, how are you doing? Glad of you to stop by and hear us." Oh, there he's back, I think.
Okay.
My takeaway, Barry, is that the certain key to success is sort of to be able to pivot very quickly as things change, because the ground seems to have shifted through no fault of your own under your feet on several different occasions.
Oh yeah.
It's like, okay, I gotta I got to pivot. Yeah, I want to do this for a living. That's not going to work out. I'm going to pivot over here, and that's not going to work out. I'm going to pivot over here. And so it seems like, as not just for you in particular, but for other people who might be listening, sort of keep your eye on the ball, but also the ground is going to shift from under you for no fault of your own.
And be flexible.
You've definitely got to be flexible. And one of the things that I realized was that if your goal is to be a comic book penciler, then devote all of your time to being a comic book penciler. If your goal is to work in comics, then be willing to do anything that's comic book related.
Right.
And so my goal was always to work in comics. And so that took me bouncing from, one job to the next, whatever was available to me. And ultimately, we're running this little print shop and that was a niche comic print shop. And I'm working in comics. I'm not, I'm not working for a major publisher. I'm not submitting things, but I'm working in comics, and I've had a longer career in comics than a lot of people who were far more talented than I am.
When you get to see, I think one of the perks of what you guys do is that you get to see cool stuff before anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's for me, and because one of the things that, and I'll speak for Roland on his behalf too, is that one of the things that we like to do is, in the old days when artwork came in on artboards, before everything was digital, we looked at stuff before it saw print, and we would, by the time it saw print, I was bored with it because I'd already read it. I'd read the original script. I'd read it from the original art. I read the coloring to proof it. I'm done. But the cool thing is I got to read the comic like 6 months before anybody else.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's one of the huge perks of actually working in comics.
Yeah. Tommy, does his story kind of jive with what you were going to say?
Oh yeah, it's
okay.
It's the story. Yeah.
So do you guys print other stuff besides comics?
We try not to.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done we get in trouble when we go off menu.
Right.
So we try to keep our offerings.
But they do a really good job at trade papers.
They look great.
Yeah, anything
awesome.
comic related.
Yeah.
I know Barry's clipping in and out. So
Yeah, he is.
Barry was going to say, because we've told this to everybody, we have a limited amount of paper stocks that we use on purpose. So we have what we need to make comics. That's how we keep the prices at what we do. We don't offer a whole bunch of stuff, so we don't have a whole bunch of different binding offerings. So, we do staple books, we do trade paperbacks, and we do those well. I think Barry's back now. I'll shut up.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's back. Agent Cub asked, Barry, here's a question for you. Do you guys do spot foils or glow in the dark? Maybe he's not back.
I used to do spot foils, but I saw a doctor and had that thing cleared up.
We can do total metallic covers. I think you've showed those online.
Those are really cool.
Yeah.
Is that a process that has evolved as you've gotten deeper into the process, and like you couldn't do it from day one, but it's as you've gotten more expertise or more metal paper, so it becomes
we've
easier?
had to develop the technique to do it relatively inexpensively. I mean, you could do it real expensive,
right,
if you wanted to, where it would cost $20-$30 a book to do it.
I mean, right?
Yeah, no, it's taken us this long to be able to get something that looks that good, where it doesn't cost you an additional $20 to get it to get it done.
Because that looks awesome.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In a small print with a small print shop,
because if you told me, I'm sure this is going to sound insulting, and I apologize, but if you told me that cover was done by two guys in their small print shop,
three of us.
I would three of you. Yeah, that's right. I wouldn't believe you. I would thought, well, that's like.
Well, I
New
know
York
that's our
furniture.
secret. Don't tell anybody.
Because it looks fantastic, and the more Roland holds it up and blinds me with it, the more fascinated I am with it.
No,
You know, about 20 times a week, we'll the three of us, Jennifer and Barry and I, will be in the room, and we'll like, you know, we should try to come up with the idea how to do this, and then we'll think about it, and we're like, yeah, let's try to make it work, or we're like, oh, that's just too expensive, and then we just forget it. We've got a big list of things that we keep trying to add, but you know, sometimes
let me throw this out to you then. Bullet hole.
No, I could get a gun. I could shoot your book for you if you want me to. I mean, I don't own a firearm.
Do you know how popular shooting a comic book would be on TikTok right now?
Between Barry's family and my family, we got plenty of weapons. Our family is not us personally, but we could go get a gun. We could shoot. I think Roland's got a gun. We'll get Roland to shoot the book for you.
Just don't use a shotgun because then you can't read it.
Oh, it depends on how close you
Agent says, are you guys ever going to offer hardcovers again?
No.
I asked that question too, Agent, a few years ago.
There are things that we've tried that didn't work, and hardcovers were one of them. I mean, we bought the equipment that we needed to do that, and it turned out that there was way more labor involved in it than we anticipated. And we just couldn't charge enough for them to cover the labor. And the most frustrating thing for me about doing hardcovers was there were so many steps involved in producing one that if you did everything exactly right and you got to the final step and you got it just a little off center, the whole book was no good. And so the wastage was way too high, and the cost was way too high, and so we took a loss on that and moved along. Same with T-shirts. We threw so much good money after bad trying to get the T-shirt press working, and that was just a big failed experiment.
Yeah. Well, hey, before our clock runs out too much, Barry, you got a campaign. You're making comics. You're still making comics. So, so you've got a campaign running, and it's got 10 days to go. Tell us. I mean, I've held up a whole bunch of comics. No one can see me now because I'm too little, but I've got a whole bunch of Gallant comics. So this is not something brand new for you. Tell us about your campaign. What are you raising money for here?
The very first comic that Gallant ever published was something that I called Gallant Comics #1, and the idea was to have the thing that I pitched to the artist that did that first book, the guy named Stephen Butler. What I pitched to Stephen was I wanted to do Crisis on Infinite Earths as an ongoing series, and that was a little ambitious. And we produced one issue. And Stephen did a bang up job, but I didn't. It wasn't what it needed to be. And so I completely rescripted it. I recolored most of it. I had Stephen draw an extra scene and touch up a few pages here and there to work with the rescripting. And we re-released it as John Amon Amazing Man #1. And instead of doing my idea for Gallant Comics as this whole universe in a single book, we focused on the title character of John Amon, and we still had a lot of elements of the story of the Gallant Comics #1 story, but the concept changed completely. And so now, 10 or 11 years later, I haven't done any comics in about 3 years. And so I kind of dusted off the idea of doing a whole universe in a book, and we're doing a brand new version of Gallant Comics #1. I have a handful of artists helping me out on this. Fishley, who's just an extraordinary artist. Del Barris did a bang up job. You see, there's a cover right now there from my pal Pat Quinn. Who
man, that's great.
Nailed that cover. and who am I leaving out? Andre Santamore and Del Barris and Michael Dorman and Thomas did the inks on one of the stories for me. So there's going to be four different stories in the book, and each story has
all your writing and coloring, right?
Yeah, I did all the writing, the coloring, the lettering, etc. The way I write comics, the final draft of the script is the letters. So yeah, so we've got four variant covers with the and then some special edition covers as well. Each spotlighting one of the characters in the story. We're doing the original Daredevil. We're doing Silver Streak. We're doing an updated version of Firehair and Jet Powers and the Chrononauts.
Nice.
It looks awesome. I can't wait for it.
Is that
Thank you, Mike.
Amazing Man? I think I'm sold.
Yeah, because I read Roland. Well, from Barry through Roland,
Yes.
I got a Dropbox full of Amazing Mans, and it was the thing that I love is it's great to see Butler doing comics.
Yeah,
because I no offense to anybody else, but I love his stuff, and I wish there was a place for him in modern comics.
Before he did that issue of John Amon, he had done pretty much nothing but Archie, Sonic the Hedgehog,
Right.
Archie comics and stuff like that for probably a decade and a half. He hadn't done any superhero stuff and had pretty much been forgotten as a superhero artist. And he's just terrific at it.
Yeah.
His Spider-Man stuff was terrific.
Did he do your header piece?
Yes.
Yeah. No, the one with all the heroes, Roland.
Oh,
scroll down, scroll up to the top.
The big group.
The group shot,
yeah.
that one. That's Butler, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, look at that. Holy cow. Look at the angle, look at the faces, everything. Beautiful.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wait, who's the lion guy?
There was a character called Lion Man back in the 40s from All Negro Comics. And I'm sorry.
Who's the Swamp Thing guy then?
That's our version of the Heap.
Oh, right.
So,
the thing that bothered me about the classic Heap is he had a funny carrot nose.
Yes.
And I always hated that. It took away, it made it like Comedy Heap, even though it wasn't supposed to be. And I much prefer this version.
So, yeah, Steven's got all the sticks and stuff coming out of his back. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous.
So this is an anthology, right? Essentially,
it is. The first couple of issues will be anthologies, or will be an anthology because I've got because I had started doing 4 separate comics. I'd started doing a Firehair comic. I'd started doing a Silver Streak comic, Daredevil comic, and the Jet Powers comic, and so I had art in inventory. And so I decided I really didn't want to launch 4 new titles. So they were all going to be interconnected anyway. And so so I just decided to put them all together and into Gallant Comics #1. And so it'll be more or less a functional anthology for the first couple of issues. But then after that, I would really like to go to a single artist and have it, all the stories kind of blend together at that point. Because they were going to anyway. So
yeah, well, I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of for lack of a better word, a sort of a manga style anthology where you get kind of the multiple stories going in. Agent Cub says, how many pages? Agent Cub, it is a 48-page full color comic.
And it's available on Kickstarter right now.
Yep,
that's right.
Yeah, so
right now.
So what are my cool add-ons that I can win?
We've got original artwork, some of Stephen Butler's original pages. We've got the action figures. We've got the John Amon Amazing Man action figure. We've got a limited amount of the Silver Streak action figures. I think I've got 18 or 20 of those, something like that. And I've got 4 of the Daredevil figures. That run is these were the original Amazing Heroes Wave 1 figures from Fresh Monkey Fiction, who produced my John Amon figure. And they have a resealable clamshell, so they've got the original card, but they've also got the Gallant Comics limited edition card.
Look at that thing.
I was sitting there scrolling through it, and it's like no one could see anything.
So I got a case of the Silver Streaks and a case of the Daredevils, and I'm down to just 4 left of the Daredevil, and it's been long sold out, out of print everywhere else.
Yeah, those are nice.
So yeah, those are the last 4 that that I'm aware of. And we've got a variant, metallic variant cover. I'll probably be adding a few add-ons this week. Probably some more artwork. I've got a really good stretch goal that I'm going to be adding this week.
Because it's always that week of your Kickstarter where everything just starts ramping up.
Yeah, it's got about 10 days left, so hopefully it'll start picking up. Past week or so, it's been kind of, we're kind of in that dead zone where, nobody pays any attention to your Kickstarter, and people start canceling pledges and that kind of thing. And so I should have known better than to do a month-long campaign. I quit doing them I went to doing 2-week campaigns a while back, and then it's been 3 years since I've done one. So I thought, well, I'll try it for a month again. I should have.
Has it been 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, it's been before the pandemic since I've done a comic.
Good grief.
But it's like you said, you've been putting things together.
I've been I've written some, and I had like I said, I had artwork in inventory. I just hadn't pulled the trigger on publishing.
I'm excited about it. I've always told you I think you need to be doing more comics.
We were just talking about that the other day.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, I would like that. The problem is the novels pay actual money. So.
Well, let's talk about that real quick before we.
Tell me about this actual money.
What does it look like?
It's not a lot of actual money, but I sell a lot more novels than I do comics, and so it's hard not to put your time where it's going to yield money, and so
where can we get the novels?
They're at Amazon. The ebooks are Amazon exclusive, but the print books you can get off my website at barrykgregory.com. I should put them up at Indie Planet, but I have I've got my comics up at Indie Planet, but I have trouble because I don't want it to seem like it's a conflict of interest thing where
we tell other people they can't put their novels up there, and we're going to start putting ours up there.
Yeah. So,
but we own the company. We can do that if we want.
Why don't you start Novel Planet?
The Novel Planet, yeah. Do you print your own novels, Agent Comics?
I do. Yeah, I do. I print the ones that I sell. The ones that if you get a print copy off of Amazon, it's their
print.
It's their print on demand, which is not as good. But
so I have a question.
Stacy Faulkner says, "Rolling Man, how you been? Mill Creek was the best neighborhood ever. Y'all talk about a blast from the past. Oh my gosh, Mill Creek was where I lived when I was in junior high and high school. Wow, Stacy Faulkner." Thank you so much for dropping by, man. We're just talking comic books here.
Check out Roland's new hair.
That's right. I actually I cut it. So
if I was inclined to So I have two questions before we go. If I was going to start with a Barry Gregory novel, which is a good one to start with?
It depends on what you like to read, because the three that I have out are all three very different, and one is a standalone, and the other two are first in a series. So I have the standalone is called The Thing Immortal, and it's kind of a weird Western. It's a horror story set in the West. It deals with a lot of First Nation mythology, and it's a 300-year-old gunfighter who is led to a girl without a name who's held prisoner by a mountain man, and he's led there by a god, a spirit.
Well,
and,
I just ordered it. Have you seen any money yet?
Yeah, the little bell went off.
Thank you, Tom. I hope you like it. That's the book that sells the best. Yeah.
You got to pull out your Mike Barron quote at this point in time.
My Mike Barron quote.
We can't.
No. We'll tell Tom off the air.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So, and my other question is,
I love Mike Barron.
Absolutely.
We all clear that up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Are you going to be in San Diego this year?
Probably not.
Well, then I want my refund then.
Well, here's the,
I mean,
question.
There's still a chance, but you know, I'll tell you off air why I probably won't do it.
No.
I love that show. I love that show. I'd love to do it, but I probably won't do it this year.
Well, Agent Cub asked down here, do you set up at a convention? So other conventions other than San Diego?
I did before the pandemic. I used to do them pretty regularly. Since then I've only done a couple of shows.
You were just at Pensacon.
I was up at Pensacon in February or March.
You're regular there, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm more of a fixture than a feature there. But I love that show. It's an amazingly well run show. And I always do well.
Next question, Tom.
I think other than Pensacon and San Diego, I think Pikeville may have been one of the last shows that I did. And
that's 5 years ago.
Wow.
I had a terrific time up there, by the way, Mike. You guys.
Well, when you come to San Diego again,
it was great.
Say again, Tom Mason.
If you come to San Diego again, we'll have lunch.
I'd love that.
That's a threat and a promise. So
you can hand deliver the book to him.
I'd love that, Tom. Thank you.
Because we didn't get a chance to last time when you were there.
No,
because oddly enough, you're always working when you work the booth. So,
so y'all get over back Barry's books. Listen, he does a lot of really good stuff. Not just because he's my pal, but he does a lot of really good stuff. I'm a fan of Gallant Comics, as you can clearly see, right? So you guys get over there and back that campaign. He's only.
I got to tell you what Tom always does to me when I'm in San Diego.
Okay.
We always seem to end up on a panel, at least one panel together when we're in San Diego, and I'm always sitting by Tom. And when I do panels at San Diego, I try to skate through and not say anything or say as little as possible. And Tom always seems to pick up on that. And at some point, he'll get asked a question, and instead of him answering the question, he'll go, "I'd really like to hear what Barry has to say about this."
I'm the worst.
Every time.
Classic Tom Mason.
You cannot hide from me on a panel. I will.
Tom's a jerk.
I will call you out. You got to get in.
Hyper says, glad to see Barry on here. I just placed an order with Indie Planet this weekend. Check Barry's Kickstarter. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We can get a link to the Kickstarter from your website too, Barry?
No.
Okay, how do we get there?
Because I'm very slothful and haven't added it to my website.
And I will put it in the chat right.
Thank you, Roland. I appreciate
now.
that.
And I just posted it on my Facebook, so you're bound to get 2 orders.
Sweet.
From my.
I'll take it. Thank you.
So
nice, very good. Yeah, you guys get over there and back this. You only got 10 days left, so get over there, get you some cool stuff. Hyper says like and subscribe, kids. Thank you, Hyper, so much for always reminding everyone to like and subscribe. Well, I still have a whole list of questions, but our time has run out. So, Barry, I'm gonna put you on the spot, my longtime friend here. Would you come back and talk to us again sometime?
Sure.
And would you not wait like 5 years to do it?
5 years from now, he'll be back.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe.
Well, I had a blast talking with you, Barry. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
You guys got any final thoughts?
No, it's great seeing you again, Barry.
I just can't wait.
Thank you, Tom. You too.
Good luck with the campaign.
Thanks, Mike. Good seeing you.
With the books. I think the more you can find to do with Stephen Butler, the better. I think you guys make a good pair.
Thank you.
And I think Tommy is one of his best inkers. So
yeah. Well, I am personally glad to see Barry doing comics again, and he knows that. I've told him multiple times. So, all right, you guys. Where's my calendar? Get over there and back Barry's campaign while I look for my calendar here.
Back Barry's books.
Back Barry's books. You can get them digitally or you can get them physically. And if you can find him at a rare appearance, I know for a fact he'll be happy to sign them for you. Tuesday, that Silverline show on Tuesday. Barry, hang out after the our thing goes off. We'll chat a little bit. Tuesday, that's Silverline show on Tuesday. Literary comics without capes. The team discusses the merging of classical literary storytelling and comics. That is Tuesday. On Wednesday, the Wednesday Whammers have a special guest, Bill and Linda Reinhold, legendary comics artist Bill Reinhold, who worked on such titles as The Punisher, Batman, Daredevil, and Spider-Man, and his equally legendary wife, colorist Linda Lessman Reinhold. That's Wednesday on Wednesday Whammers. You guys tune in for that. Next week, we will be back here, same bat time, same bat channel. We're going to talk about the importance of place. Stories have to take place somewhere. Why is place important? We're going to just...
For a second, I thought you said plates, and I
plates.
Plates.
Paper
or plastic?
We're going
to discuss the importance of place. Talking about why it matters.
Location.
There you go. Why is New Orleans important to Silverline Stories? I know that was mentioned a couple of weeks back when I lost power. So I guess that was last week, wasn't it? So we're going to talk about that. So you guys be sure you tune in for those shows. And you know how we like to end these things, guys. We'll see you next week. But remember to make mine Silverline. Good night, everyone.
Hi, I'm Chris Olm. I'm the former editor-in-chief of Malibu Comics. Make mine Silverline.